In the last year, I read 38 books. Here are the 5 best, and here are the 5 worst. I'm Grant, and this is your co-host, Sullivan. 38 books sounds like a lot, but honestly, it didn't really feel like a lot. I just read a couple pages every night, and then I listened to a little bit of an audiobook in the car on the way to work. Now, the 2 most important awards. We have Grant's Best Book of 2024. Very important. This is the trophy. In addition, we also have the worst book of 2024. Now, these aren't books that came out in 2024. These are books that I read. So a lot of these are probably very, very old, and these authors could care less what I think about it, but I still am going to give my opinion. Now, starting off with the 5 best. Honestly, picking the 5 best was the hardest part because I really did read a lot of books I enjoyed. I'm usually pretty easy to please when it comes to books. As long as I had fun, the characters are likable, it's a win for me. For the 5th best book I read this year, we have The Lost Bookshelf by Evie Woods. This was a Costco find. I had never read anything from this author, but it was super captivating. I read it in like 2 or 3 days. It's not that big of a book. It seems really hard for you to be fully encaptured into a story, especially like the setting, but this did that perfectly. As soon as I finished it, it really felt like I was in that story. Number 4, 4th best book, we have Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia
Owens.
I don't think I was saying that at all. Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. This was one of the last books I read in 2024, and I had heard many people say good things about it. I had heard good things about the movie. I still haven't seen the movie, but this was such a great book. Lately, I've been reading a lot of fantasy, and so I was kind of hesitant to jump into a realistic fiction story. It was so well done. It was so good. A body shows up dead, and the Marsh girl is accused of it, and so it's how this court trial unfolds while we see this girl growing up. It's a really captivating book with, I don't want to spoil the ending, but needless to say, I really think you should read this. This is my 4th best book of 2024. Number 3, 3rd best book is, this book being on the channel should be absolutely no surprise to anyone, but it is The Wager by David Grann. This is one of the best nonfiction stories. No, it is the best nonfiction story I've read ever, and so I cannot stop recommending it to people. At this point, I think my family is very annoyed when I mention this book at least once every other week. It is a tale about a shipwreck, a mutiny, and murder. It's the same author of Killers of the Flower Moon, if you guys have read that. I know there was a movie that came out with that. As you can see, I'm in my Sunday best. Number 2. Now we're getting into the really good stuff. We have The Wild Robot by Peter Brown. Now, I had seen the trailer for this movie come out, and so I thought I should probably read it because I've only heard good things about it, and oh my gosh, everybody was right. This was such a great book. I think I cried 3 times, went and saw the movie, cried another like 25 times, but good cry. It is such a great children's story that as soon as I finished it, I said to Kayla that I was instantly going to read it to my class. Sure enough, read it to my classroom. They loved it, and so now we're reading the sequel, and after that, we're going to read the 3rd one in the series. So, Wild Robot, Peter Brown, 2nd, almost got 1st place. Very, very good story. Number 1, the best of the best that I have read. Now, obviously, opinions are very subjective. Your favorite book might be my least favorite book, and so on. This book, I will recommend to anyone who either enjoys fantasy books or wants to start getting into fantasy books. That is, drumroll please, it is Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. This is my first of his. I know he's the king of fantasy writing. I know he's done like a million books that are a bajillion pages long. This is my first of his. I cannot stop talking about it. I couldn't even explain like a brief synopsis of the story. All I would say is if you have any inclination to read a fantasy story, please go check this out. I'm not getting a commission for the 12 people watching. As the back says directly, once a hero arose to save the world, he failed. Ever since, the world has been a wasteland of ash and mist controlled by the immortal emperor known as the Lord Ruler, and the determination of an unlikely heroine, a street urchin who must learn to master the power of a Mistborn. Seriously, check it out. It is the winner of Grant's Best Book of 2024. This is a very expensive trophy, worth thousands of dollars. I'm sure Mr. Sanderson is just begging for this to be sent to him, so I'll make sure that gets to him, and certainly not in our recycling bin. Now, while there were a bunch of amazing books, according to my Goodreads, my average was 4.1 stars, which is pretty high. There were still some bad ones. Like I said, I read 38 books, and these were the 5 worst. Coming in at number 5, I don't even have this book anymore, we gave it away, but it is The Bone Season. Now, I had read another story from this author, which was number 6 in this stack for best book, but this book just did not do it for me. It was the same story I've read like 3 times this year, which is a girl gets taken away to this mystical land, has to put up with these people that she doesn't like. All of a sudden, oh, they slowly fall in love with each other. It gets old. You can only do that so many times. That was like my 3rd book in a row where it was that same storyline. It was exhausting, didn't do it for me. It's number 5. Number 4 for the 4th worst book that I read this year. I don't think I have this book anymore either. If you'll notice, the bad books I don't even keep. If I don't like them, they're gone. Donated, Goodwill, somewhere else. Number 4 is How to Stop Time. It was just boring. It wasn't great. It just wasn't enjoyable. Plain and simple. It was just It was the most book of the year. Number 3 was, this is the only one of the bad books I actually have, which is Across the Universe by Beth Revis. Now, Kayla had been talking about me reading this book for like 3 years. It had been just sitting in the back of her car. She'd always kept mentioning, oh, you should read this, you'll like it. It was so bad. It was about, kind of like the ship in WALL-E, where they're just traveling to another place. The dialogue was cringy. There was like a scene that was just completely unnecessary. Kayla lost her recommendation privileges for a couple of days, and that goes across movies and books, so I got to pick the next couple movies we watched, which was certainly enjoyable. Next up, we're getting to the really, really bad stuff. My spot for number 2 for the worst book of last year that I read was The Guncle. I wanted to like this book so much. It was so bad. I listened to an audiobook that was actually from the author. I was like, that's gonna make it the best, it's gonna make it super enjoyable. I really wanted to like this book. Everybody else had talked so great about it. The reviews were 5 star, 5 star, 5 star. It was so bad. It was borderline unreadable. It wasn't enjoyable. The characters were not deep or interesting in any sense. I was so exhausted by the time I got to the end of the book. I don't ever like to DNF a book because that just feels like giving up, and I don't know, I don't think we're supposed to do that, but it was so disappointing. And then I heard that they're writing a sequel for that story. I don't even want to get near it. Seriously, why? It's about this gay uncle who's going through the sadness of losing his sister, so he has to look after her kids for the summer. It had a really interesting premise. I thought it could really explore some deep emotions. It was not good. It is number 2. Now, the worst book of 2024. It takes a lot for me to not like a book. I really do like almost everything I read, or at least some part of it. The first of the series, I loved. It was one of my favorite books growing up in high school, late middle school, early high school. I went and actually met the author. I got my book signed. Then the movie came out. I saw the movie. I thought it was a pretty good movie overall. Then they had a sequel. I was like, wow, this is going to be great. Bought it. Or I think it was a gift. And I didn't read it for a while. I think I was scared that it just wasn't going to live up to the first one, because I really remember liking the first one. It did not live up to the first one at all. I got rid of this book as soon as I finished it. That's how bad it was. I didn't even want to see it anymore. That book was Ready Player 2. It was unreadable. No part of the book was redeeming. The main character is one of the most unlikable characters in fiction I've ever encountered. Who wants to read a book where all of the characters are either so low effortly written that you can't enjoy it, or so unlikable that you root against them? And the ending, it was just so crap. Sorry, I don't like to curse on the channel, but it was crap. It was bad. There was no question in my mind on who was winning Grant's worst book of 2024. Ready Player 2, we'll try with the third one. No, I don't even want to read it. I'm at this point, I'm scared to go back and read the first one because of how bad the second one was. Was my reading opinions and was my uneducated mind just stupid when I read the first one? Why did I like it so much? On that lovely note, I think it is time to end. I want to seriously thank you guys for watching. If you are still watching, I have fun making these videos. At this point, realized we're not focused. At this point, I think we've realized that my channel is just a hodgepodge mess of whatever the heck I have going on in my head at the time. This seemed like a fun idea. Coming up, I want to show you guys what's on my TBR list, so my to be read list. I want to keep playing GeoGuessr. I've been having fun with that. I want to show you guys as I become a dad. That's weird to say out loud. Even as I film this in our finished nursery, it still feels weird. Anyways, if you enjoyed this, or you didn't enjoy it, really, please subscribe. Seriously, it means a lot to me. Growing a small channel like this, it's not easy, so I really do appreciate any likes, comments, subscribes. Share the video with your grandma, even if she doesn't know how to click the button on the computer. Call she said it doesn't work. Just send it to her anyway. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.